I want to start this week's show by paying respects to 26 Indians brutally killed by Pakistani terrorists in Kashmir on April 22nd. May God rest them in peace. Hello, my fellow geeks. Welcome to another edition of the Indian AvGeek. You are listening to Vishal Mehra. If you are an AvGeek who thinks alliances are just about court chairs and lounge access, are you going to be surprised or what? Joining us on podcast today is none other than Mauro Oretti, the head of operations at SkyTeam. From Turin to Amsterdam via the cockpits of Alitalia and the boardrooms of global aviation, Mauro has been orchestrating partnerships, pioneering sustainability challenges, and making sure your frequent flyer miles are as seamless as your check in experience. Get ready to hear from the Alliance Whisperer. Welcome aboard, Mauro.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mauro. How did you get into aviation?
The true story is that it happened more or less by chance. I was working in the automotive industry, uh, and I realized that it was not particularly exciting. I was the export manager. I was selling spare parts for Italian cars in the world. And I decided to shift for something where the word fun would be very prominent. And in my mind, aviation was fun. Little did I know at the time that it was more challenges than fun in a way. But that's how it all started. So I sent a CV to Alitalia, and that CV was welcomed, was accepted, and then I got started then as with a position to be to position to. The idea was to put myself abroad and lead the commercial endeavors as an expat abroad. And that's how it all started.
Whenever I hear about Alitalia, I somehow connect it with Air India because for so many years, Air India was also a perpetual underperformer. Similar fate as in Alitalia for so many years till it was rescued. You know what I mean.
Absolutely.
How was your time at Alitalia? You were there for almost 20 years.
Well, it was challenging. It was, of course, fun. It was great for many things, but it was challenging because the airline, as you know, went down on a spiral of worsening economic results, and which eventually ended in a couple of bankruptcies. So not always a fun period.
And that led you to joining SkyTeam in July of 2009.
Well, yeah, I was. So my last position in Alitalia was VP of Alliances, and that after having worked, having collaborated to the what is still known as an interesting example of quasi merger between Alitalia and KLM, when the merger was called off, then we shifted and moved towards more of a bilateral relationships with Air France at the time and Delta, and this led to the entrance in SkyTeam. This was happening while SkyTeam was being founded, and so we were the sixth member to join SkyTeam in Alitalia. Alitalia was so there were the four founding members: Air France, Delta, Aeromexico, Korean. The fifth one was CSA, and then in July, between July and September 2001, Alitalia joined, and I was leading this effort. And that's how I got into the whole SkyTeam story. And then when Alitalia went bankrupt the first time, I decided that I would give it a try and applied for a job at SkyTeam. SkyTeam was being created at the time in 2009. I got the job, and then I'm still here 15 years later.
About 18, 19 years back, you wrote an intriguing book by the name of Airline Choices for the Future, right?
I was the co-author together with Costas Iatru.
That's right. I want to talk briefly about your book. I had read some excerpts as part of my research for this chat. You had mentioned alliances remain important, but mergers are viewed as a key strategic move for airlines seeking competitive advantage. Do you still believe that?
It is still the case with some nuances. It is still the case because it really depends on the ambition level. If you want to extract the maximum benefits from alliance cooperation, then the ultimate aim is either a form of strong joint venture, ideally EBIT based, or a merger. But that comes with strings attached. First of all, it comes with complex regulatory processes because mergers, as you know, need regulatory freedom. So you need to be immunized. You need to get the approvals from the antitrust authorities, depending on where you are in the world, but certainly of your local antitrust authority. And because these are cross-border mergers, most likely by the US DOT and the European Union. So it is a complex process. And also industrially, the complexity of such operation is such that, yes, you get financial benefits, but managing a merger in an industry like aviation, which is arguably the most complex industry in the world today, it is challenging. And so not all these operations, not all these mergers end up well. So you need to be ready for the challenge.
How does SkyTeam define success in terms of alliance performance? Is it revenue? Is it connectivity, loyalty, or something else?
It's a mix of all of those. What we do is every year we carry out what we call it a value exercise. So we determine the value that SkyTeam generates for the members. And it's a relatively long effort and detailed effort, which ends up in a book, which is an 88 pages book, and there we are touching on all fronts. So of course, network is one of them, loyalty is one of them. These and eventually everything ends up in either revenue enhancement, cost benefits, customer experience improvements, um, the sharing of best practices and brand value. So these are the five macro areas, but I would say that it becomes very granular, especially when it comes to revenue and cost.
And this study, Mauro, you're talking about, comes out every year?
Yeah, the study that we do comes out every year is of course internal. It's entirely something that we share with our members. And it's a way to remind our members constantly of the value that SkyTeam provides.
Right. That leads me to my next question. What criteria does SkyTeam look at when evaluating a new airline for membership?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's important to understand, and I'm sure you understand that none of the alliances, certainly not SkyTeam, is going around the world recruiting airlines. What happens is that the members develop meaningful relationships, and those relationships may, from time to time, evolve into alliance membership, depending on a variety of characteristics and features.
Different factors, yes.
Different factors. So, the world of aviation is, when it comes to network operation, split in two. There are people who believe that network value is extracted by choosing overlapping uh, airlines whose network overlaps, because that's a way to reduce capacity. As you know, aviation is plagued by overcapacity, and so this is one way to do it. The other theory is that you should look for complementary networks that are not overlapping very much. And in SkyTeam, our attempt so far has been to go for, because we, we're not a concentrative alliance, we're a competitive alliance, so we remain competitors. We are not immunized. So we went for the second option. We went for airlines that can complement our network. Network is still, even today, the foundational driver of alliance development. So you want to work with airlines that are complementary to the overall network system of the alliance.
Have there been cases where a potential member did not align with SkyTeam's goals or standards? Has that happened in the past?
Well, it's a process, Vishal. So, of course, there are always, the foundation of SkyTeam is a set of membership requirements. We call them membership requirements. These are requirements that the airlines need to comply with when they join and to stay in SkyTeam. And these are relatively intricate matters, and so there's always the case of one airline that for one reason or another is not necessarily compliant with certain things. So it's a process. We never had significant events, but it's a process in which we audit regularly these airlines and we identify the areas where improvements may be needed, and we accompany them in this process. It's not a police role. It's really a role of making sure that what the airlines deliver collectively can go to the benefit of the airlines themselves and their customers.
So, what happens behind the scenes when a new airline joins? I'm just curious to know how long does that integration take, and what are the challenges you see initially when a new member airline comes on board?
So the process typically lasts around 1 to 2 years, one year and a half, depending. It really depends very much on how the airline is, what the airline is.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you saying that background work starts almost 18 months before an airline joins the alliance?
That's correct. So
Okay.
what typically happens is that there is an announcement, and the announcement say airline XY will join the alliance. Great excitement. Okay, when will it join? Well, it will join probably 1 year and a half, sometimes 2 years after the announcement, depending on the status of the airline, specifically as far as systems are concerned. The two difficult things that are challenging when an airline joins an alliance is aligning the systems, doing the IT, doing the tech, doing the digital developments behind the joining process, as well as for the airline, developing the bilateral agreements, the code sharing agreements, the loyalty agreements, the lounge agreements that constitute the bulk of the cooperation. So this takes time. Now, how do we manage that behind the scene? We create a team which we call TST, Transition Support Team, and it's a team made of experts in various fields of the alliance, of the airline, in fact. So you're gonna have brand people, you're gonna have tech people, you're gonna have digital people, you're gonna have customer experience people, airport people, communications people, safety people. And this team, again, walks the airline through the process, follows them until they join. This is managed in SkyTeam. This is managed by a group of people which is called Alliance Operations. That's what I'm doing today. It's Alliance Operations, and this group of people coordinates the joining process altogether.
And the transition team comes into play also when an airline is exiting the alliance. Is it the same team?
It's the same team, and it's a shorter process. It may depend on various things, but disentangling is easier than entangling, easier than combining, typically.
What's the long term vision for SkyTeam in a world where low cost carriers and independent alliances are gaining ground? The Indian market, for example, Mauro, about 65% of domestic market share is with IndiGo. Now, it's becoming hybrid also in some respects. To be honest, I'm asking this because some months back I had a conversation with the marketing director for Star Alliance on the show, and we were discussing their connecting partner model, right? Do you think SkyTeam would be open to doing something like that? What's your view on that?
So if your question is about specifically about whether low-cost airlines will join SkyTeam eventually, if this is the bulk of the questions,
Yes.
um, I would say that SkyTeam has a set of values of parameters like all alliances, and it's made of typically legacy carriers, mainline carriers that have a business class, have a frequent flyer program, fly from key hubs, and so it's not easy to imagine that ultra low cost carrier, for example, would ever join an alliance. But that said, it's absolutely possible that if an airline which has a low cost, let's say, background and decides to evolve towards a more hybrid model, like it has happened in the past, right? Some airlines are evolving towards a more hybrid model because they see that there is value there. There is value in maintaining a very strong focus on cost, but at the same time, there is value in business class passengers. There is maybe value in loyalty. There may be value in providing priority services to the top end of the customers. So if the airline hybridizes, then there are ways, certainly ways, to accommodate that airline in SkyTeam. But that would no longer be a low-cost airline or an ultra low-cost airline. It would be a hybrid airline.
Very interesting. I will come back to that point a little later in our conversation. What's the importance of the Indian market for SkyTeam?
Well, the India market is, I mean, this is India, the largest country in the world. So it's obviously a key market for SkyTeam. You know, there are markets in the world. What we typically say is that SkyTeam covers some 90 to 95% of the world traffic, right? However, there are some markets which we call white spots, where we don't have a member. And Japan is one of them, Canada is one of them, India is one of them. And so it would be very desirable, of course, to have a member. So just to give you, let's say, a sense of what SkyTeam, what India means for SkyTeam, we have 7 carriers of SkyTeam flying to India, right? So this is Air France, KLM, Korean Air, Kenya Airways, Saudia, Vietnam Airlines, and Virgin Atlantic. These 7 carriers, on an yearly basis, and I'm looking 2025 here, the projection is that these 7 carriers will offer 2.5 million seats on an yearly basis for a total of approximately 8,500 frequencies. That's about 23 frequencies a day. And if you look at the number of Indian cities served, there are 9 Indian cities served: Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Kochi, Lucknow, Chennai, Ahmedabad, and Gaya. So it's a pretty dense array of connections and of service that SkyTeam is providing. So absolutely, India is relevant on the map.
How come you don't have a SkyTeam member in India yet?
Well, if you have followed the development, and I'm sure you did, the developments of aviation in India in the last 10, 15 years, you will probably recognize and acknowledge that it was not an easy market to enter. Look at what happened to Kingfisher. I remember talking to Kingfisher when I was in Alitalia with many people of Kingfisher, and I was impressed by what Kingfisher was doing. Kingfisher itself, the product of a merger. I was talking with Jet Airways, itself the product of a merger. And even today, the best memory I have of a flight is a business class flight between Ahmedabad and London on Jet Airways. Still outstanding service.
Sorry,
Impeccable.
Ahmedabad and?
Between Ahmedabad and London.
Oh, all right. Okay.
2011, fantastic service. I'm vegetarian, so the service provided by Jet Airways was absolutely fantastic. I followed and met Air India itself, the product of a merger with Indian Airlines. But the economic performance of all these airlines have been negative.
Yeah, questionable. Yeah.
Questionable.
Right.
Kingfish. So as much as I have huge admiration for the work that these carriers have done, all of them, really, to develop aviation in India, unfortunately, Kingfisher is no longer flying. Jet Airways is no longer flying. And now, of course, having Air India together with Vistara, that can be a new kind of start for Air India, a new kind of opportunity manifesting itself. IndiGo is an example of, I would say, excellence in the Indian market, something to admire, something to look, with great interest. But the reason why there is no member today in India is because it's a difficult market to enter for an alliance perspective.
With Air France KLM's existing code-share agreements with IndiGo, facilitating access to numerous Indian destinations, does SkyTeam envision deeper collaboration or potential membership discussions with IndiGo?
I think it's premature to discuss this. As I said, we are not the ones who drive these kind of decisions. The airlines drive these choices. So if and when our members or some of our members will develop a deeper cooperation with IndiGo, SkyTeam membership could be a possible final outcome. But this is way premature to look at anything like that because IndiGo is an airline that is courted by many airlines because of their successful model, and who knows what they want to do. It's really impossible at this stage to speculate on that.
Mauro, you were just talking about how you have 7 different alliance members serving the Indian market. Though there is definite potential for it to go up if the Chinese carriers are allowed to fly into India. From a passenger experience point of view, lounges are a key part of the whole mix, right? You run 5 worldwide SkyTeam lounges in Dubai, Sydney, Santiago de Chile, Sao Paulo, and Vancouver. How come there is no SkyTeam lounge or plans of having one in Delhi, India's biggest airport?
I wish we had the SkyTeam lounge in Delhi and in Mumbai, but opening a lounge is not as easy as it sounds. The planners really need to align, and you need to find, first of all, an airport that is willing to have an alliance operating a lounge, an alliance or an airline operating a lounge. This is not the case for many airports in the world. Airports in many areas of the world want to run the lounges themselves. Then you need to find the space. So the airport needs to have the space for the lounge and lounge to actually exist. And then you need to have a cost, or let's say a financial equation that makes sense. Some airports are extremely expensive to operate in. And then you need to have the critical mass to justify opening a lounge. Now, in the case of Delhi and Mumbai, of course, it's a no-brainer. But sometimes we have requests from airports in the world where opening a lounge doesn't really make much financial sense because the number of long-haul flights is either non-existing or limited, or the number of business class passengers or premium passengers is low. So let's say differently said, I would love for SkyTeam to have a lounge in Delhi and in Mumbai, 100%. But it's not as easy as it sounds.
I would assume that because you do not have a SkyTeam member airline based out of India, it would make sense to have an alliance lounge to give that SkyTeam branded experience to passengers for all the member airlines operating out of the airport. Are you working with Indian airports like Delhi or Mumbai or Bengaluru to enhance the alliance experience in any way?
Today we are not. What happens is that we work with a number of contractors that build the lounge on our behalf and manage the lounges. These contractors have relationships with the biggest airports in the world on a daily basis, I would say. And so far, what we hear is that it has proven, for a variety of reasons, it has proven complex to contemplate the possibility of a lounge in Mumbai and Delhi.
I'm sure you know there are two new big airports opening up near Delhi and Mumbai.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's on the map. Now, will the airport authorities be willing to have airlines or alliances having a space? That I don't know. But certainly, India is definitely on our map, and that includes lounges.
The airport near Delhi, by the way, is being built by your European neighbors, Zurich Airport. So maybe there can be something worked out, Mauro. I keep reading about various initiatives SkyTeam keeps undertaking, but if I have to ask you about a key innovation coming up to enhance passenger experience, what would that be?
So, before I answer to this question, let me give you just a recap of how alliances have evolved over the years, right? So it all started with the network and the loyalty. Then there was the brand building. Then there was the commercial propositions. And then customer experience became center stage in the strategy of alliances in general, including SkyTeam. And then technology. And then digital technology, because of course, with the evolution from the old, teletype messaging, etc., towards HTML, that made possible things that before were impossible. NDC. Now we are moving, as you well know, towards retailing, offer order, one order, etc. And for us, the latest evolution has been sustainability. Sustainability for SkyTeam is very important. It has been important in the last 3-4 years, and will continue to be important as we move forward. Now, if you ask me what initiative will be meaningful from a customer perspective, I think that looking at the work that we do in digital, I think what we call seamless check-in is probably that one. Seamless check-in for us is allowing the possibility to the customers of our members, to the passengers flying with our members, to seamlessly check in on their own devices, regardless whether they are checking in on the marketing carrier or the operating carrier. Now, this may seem something very easy, right? From a customer perspective, if you're a customer, you expect that. Say, hey, I'm offered a code sharing. I don't want to know which airline I'm flying with, but from an industry perspective, this is an industry first. This is it's these kind of developments because of the legacy systems of in the airline world. These kind of developments are very difficult to to do, you know.
Demand. Yeah.
And so we have completed the first phase of the project. We are now moving to the second phase of the project, which will augment the utility of the seamless check-in project by adding functionalities, by adding other things. So if I have to choose on initiatives, I think this will be the one that would make the most difference.
Very interesting indeed. I'm sure it'll help your customers a lot. I think technology becomes even more effective and magical when it's invisible, right? And in this case, passengers should not even ideally realize who's the marketing carrier and who's the operating carrier.
You're spot on. You're spot on here. And the role of alliances, certainly the role of SkyTeam, has shifted over the years. And now there is much more work that we do behind the scenes in a non, let's say, creating non-branded products, because that's what our members want.
Can you explain that a little bit? What you mean by a branded product?
Well, for example, if you look at Sky Priority, our flagship priority service, this is something that we have developed and we have branded it Sky Priority, and is now available in short of 1,000 airports in the world along 8 touch points. So that's a branded product. Seamless check-in is not a branded product. The airlines do not know that SkyTeam is powering this new service or this new possibility. And so it's a role that we play with great pride and very willingly do so, but it's an invisible role in a way.
That brings me to my next question. How does SkyTeam handle branding and consistency when so many different airlines are involved? How do you make sure there is one SkyTeam message going on and ensure consistency?
Well, here I'm sitting with the head of marketing, Ben Neumann, next to me. It's all about standards and checking that things are done in the proper way. So again, I mentioned these membership requirements, right? One of the membership requirements refers to the fact that airlines have to adopt the instructions, the measures, the indications included in a brand book. We have a brand book, and this brand book shows how the brand should be displayed in a number of areas and number of touch points. So the airlines are doing that, and then we audit the airlines consistently, regularly, to make sure that this brand compliance is effectively existing. So is this an easy process? No, because when you're talking about a remote airport, which is rarely visited or hardly visited in some remote parts of the world, then I'm sure that the compliance of the brand there is probably less likely to be happening in the same impeccable way as it happens in the hubs, for example. So, but then it's really a matter of engaging the members. We have, of course, a brand and communication team. We have an advertising and brand working group. We and the members are constantly engaged in this dialogue. The standards are constantly refreshed. You may have seen that there was a new
Brand manifesto.
brand
Fantastic. Yeah.
manifesto video created here by the gentleman next to me, Ben Neumann. So these things are happening. And then the audit process, what we do, is called Membership Compliance Program, MCP. The audit process, which we carry out on a regular basis, should, among other things, verify the brand consistency.
My passion for advertising and marketing makes me ask you the next question. And in fact, I remember that's how our conversation began, Mauro, via your brand manifesto. Do you take feedback from member airlines for something like that? How much collaboration is involved in creating something like that?
Is driven by SkyTeam in a fully collaborative mode with the members, because you may understand the sensitivity of this video. Every single frame, every single second is debated and discussed to a great extent because of the implications. Imagine if an airline is not present. Imagine if a certain aircraft is not displayed. Imagine if, why do you do it in this airport? Why am I not visible here? Why do you talk about? So it's super sensitive because it's the brand of our members on display. So we want to do it in the most thorough and collaborative way. So there are a series of constant checks and verification steps all along the way that make sure that the airlines are pleased with what we do. And of course, there are corrections along the process. So there are things that we change because of inputs and feedback that we receive from the airlines.
Well, I don't envy the job of the advertising agency on that project.
I agree.
Is there a plan to further unify the frequent flyer benefits across member airlines, like seamless upgrades or better award availability?
The proposition today is, of course, that that a passenger can earn miles, redeem miles on every one of the SkyTeam carriers, and that the miles are used and are valuable as status miles to move up the ladder of the various tiers. So this is what existing today. Then there is a recognition part where we have aligned on two tiers, Elite and Elite Plus, the recognition across the board, across the world for the various benefits, be it lounge access, Sky Priority, or any other priority services. This is what's happening today. Now, we have a specific project happening in the area of loyalty, which has to do, I would say, with improving the accrual process at large. I don't want to go much deeper into that, also because of, say, competitive advantage, but it is no secret that there are now programs that are revenue-based and programs that are mileage-based. So this all, say, space needs to be taken good care of, and I would leave it at that.
It's an increasingly complex world, mainly because of geopolitics, and that affects aviation too. You are a major player in that. So are the other two alliances. All three of you have always competed with each other, as per my limited understanding. Do you see an opportunity to collaborate with One World or Star Alliance?
First of all, I need to partially amend what you said,
Okay,
because
correct.
during the pandemic, we have done a number of initiatives that involved Star and One World. So the three alliances together have cooperated on a number of lobbying efforts, for example, on measures to mitigate the effect of the pandemic, measures to align on some safety features, slots. Um, so we have collaborated in the past, and there is no immediate possibility or there is no immediate action to collaborate further in the future. I cannot exclude it, but there is one area which I want to mention. Is not necessarily alliance related, but it's about collaborating with airlines that are outside of SkyTeam, and that's the area of sustainability. So I don't know if you have followed, but if you have not, I really recommend that you check it out. There is an initiative which we call the Aviation Challenge, TAC. This started 3 years ago. It was at the time it was differently named. It was the Sustainable Flight Challenge. And this is an initiative that has brought together the SkyTeam Airlines, which fly every year one or more flights of their existing network in the most sustainable way. And this initiative has proven to be incredibly successful and incredibly rewarding from a value perspective for the members and for SkyTeam, because it's something that we have created. It's actually an idea that came to KLM, and then KLM handed it over to us for being executed at SkyTeam level. And in the not on year one, but on year two and on year three, this initiative has seen the participation of airlines that are outside of the alliance perimeter. In the last iteration, we had Corendon and we had TUI participating. So I certainly cannot exclude. I would say, even encourage the fact that because sustainability is so vital for the industry, that we can cross to a certain extent, at least to a certain extent, the alliance borders and welcome additional airlines that are non-alliance members to chime in and join.
I did hear about it, Mauro. Listening to some of your past interviews, especially at the Aviation Festival, you spoke about it. My compliments again to you and your team for a brilliant job.
Thank you so much.
What would a next generation airline alliance look like if you were building one from scratch today?
I think that it would look probably similar to what it is today, but with a number of changes. The biggest challenge that alliances have today is the fact that the members are very different.
Different in terms of?
They have grown different in terms of size, business model, strategy, priority, etc. So to provide value to the most, let's say, to the largest airline or the most, evolutionary airlines, and to provide value to the airlines that are still maybe at the beginning of their maturity cycle, this is quite challenging. So I would say that if we were to create an alliance today, we would probably look at more commonality in terms of, again, size, strategy, markets, business model, etc. That's number one. Number two is we would probably look at exploring the possibility of aligning the systems, the tech systems, ex ante rather than ex post. Because if you do the things afterwards, it's more complex than if you do them early on. And the third one is that we could probably explore the possibility of aligning in terms of ground handling in the airports. Because if you have different ground handlers and different DCS systems, then the cooperation at airport level becomes more complex. If you could align on having one ground handler and having one DCS system, it would make it easier. So these are the three things that come to mind. But other than that, the nature and the spirit of the alliance, I think it would be more or less similar to what we have today.
What's the future of airline alliances according to you?
It's very difficult to predict at this stage because of the impact of retailing. And I'm optimistic. I think, we this year is the 25th year of SkyTeam. Our 25th anniversary is happening this year, and we will, by the way, celebrate it in Delhi at the IATA AGM on June 1st. So India is going to be the land where this will be celebrated first. Of course, the celebration will last the year long, is lasting the year long, and is already happening. But 25 years is a long time in general and in aviation in particular. So it's difficult to predict what will happen next. But I see, based on the value that we are creating for the members, based on a variety of other drivers, that this journey will continue. And yes, there will always be the dynamic relationship or dynamic juxtaposition between alliances and mergers, alliances and equity alliances, multilateral versus bilateral, because this is a moment in the world where multilateralism is not so fashionable anymore, as you see looking at the papers. But still, I think that there is incredible value in this multilateral dimension, and this is frankly the reason why I've stayed in the alliances so long, because complex problems can only be solved through cooperation. And multilateral cooperation is one of the most effective ways, in my opinion, to foster that.
Which is your favorite airport? And you cannot say Amsterdam. You cannot say one of your hub airports.
Seoul Incheon.
Ever the company man, you of course had to choose one of your hub airports.
No. Have you been to Incheon?
I will be there next month.
Okay, then you tell me. Once you are there, then you tell me, compared to all the other airports that I have seen, that you have seen, what do you think of Incheon? For the way I travel, Incheon is a great airport, is my favorite airport, and I would say the same if it had been an airport of a different airline competing to alliance. For example, I will say that Oslo Gardermoen is a great airport. And it's not, okay, now it's the hub of SAS because SAS has become a member. Sorry, I'm a company man again.
Can you tell us about a memorable moment or a big challenge during your time with SkyTeam? Anything that sticks out in your illustrious career?
Well, I need to go back to the what was then at the time called the Sustainable Flight Challenge, because I started it together with a team of people, of course, on year one, and we asked a number of illustrious and eminent people to be part of the jury. So we had an 8 people rich jury on year one that evaluated the performance of the various airlines, the sustainability performance, and eventually selected the winners. And the chair of this jury was Jan-Peter Balkenende, who has been the prime minister of the Netherlands for 10 years. So for me, spending time sitting face to face with the former prime minister who was spending valuable time pro bono for SkyTeam, for the benefit of the world, for sustainability, has been an honor.
We did briefly talk about your book at the beginning of our chat. Are you planning a revised, updated edition this year or next year? Do you have some time for that?
Look, I'm going to disclose something which I haven't disclosed yet to anyone. But so the answer is no. I'm not planning any revision, at least not now. We tried with Costas, my writing buddy, to do it twice. Twice we failed because our jobs are demanding. But I am working on a book as we speak. I'm not going to say anything anymore, but it's going to involve aviation, and it's going to involve sustainability.
Well, I would love an author's signed copy whenever it comes out.
And the key word is whenever, because I have no idea when they will be finished. It's going much slower than I'm co-writing as well with another person.
You mentioned you'll be celebrating SkyTeam's 25th anniversary right here in Delhi. That's fantastic to know. Will we see you in Delhi for it? Any other plans by SkyTeam for that?
So today we use is the wrong word, but we take advantage of the IATA AGM whenever and wherever that is, because it's a moment where the CEOs come together, and so we have we hold our alliance board, which is the CEO level board, during the IATA AGM. And because this is the 25th anniversary, we use the same opportunity to celebrate with them and with their teams this important moment. There will be other moments during the year, namely probably the executive board in November. This is the board that includes the CCOs and the EVPs commercial. And we don't know yet where it will be. There are a couple of options, but we may organize then a gala event on that day.
Fantastic. Of course, this AGM will be hosted by your friends at IndiGo. My best wishes to everybody. Hopefully, things turn out to be marvelous. I have to thank you for taking out the time and chatting with me, Mauro. It was wonderful. And thank you to you too, Benjamin.
Thank you, Vishal. It's me thanking you. And by the way, I want to compliment you for the questions because they not only show a deep passion for aviation, but they also show a very thorough understanding of the landscape of alliances, specifically SkyTeam in particular. So I really genuinely compliment you for the good questions.
Chatting with Mauro was quite an experience. And those insights about how the alliance operations work, very fascinating to me. Next week, be ready for a Hyderabadi. Also, India's #1 aviation podcast is now streaming on JioSaavn as well. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your fellow AvGeeks. Mauro is not on X, but very active on LinkedIn, and I am at Vishal Mehra on X. With that, keep your tray tables up, your seatbelts fastened. I wish you well, and happy flying, my friends!